the second recommendation, so I guess that's what we would do in the first recommendation. And the second recommendation is once we've got those surveys done, once we've identified those issues, we would recommend that these, pick 2 or 3 of the highest, the ones that register the highest among the voters. Pick 2 or 3 that are really easy to understand for the voters, that provide a clear choice for the voters, and that put the Democrats on the defensive. The meals tax is a great example. It's very easy to understand. You're going to pay 4% more for your prepared foods and your restaurant meals. And it's very easy for a business person to understand your customers are going to pay more, and so this might affect your business. There's not a lot of wiggle room in there. Let the Democrats explain that. It's very easy to understand. The streetcar was the same thing. It was obvious it was going to cost a ton of money. It was going to rip up a main thoroughfare for years. Well, guess what? People got that. There's not a lot of nuance there. So, people running on these issues really did well. The increased development in Fairfax, etc. One of the things that we found, as we were going door to door, is when we presented, hey, we have a really good economy. The economy under the president has been really, really good. Unemployment is low. All these wonderful things, and it was great. They got it, but it wasn't as compelling a message, I think, as we would like it to be. And I think, we didn't really study it. I would say anecdotally, from my perspective, it's not clear to me that Virginia has suffered maybe the brunt of the Great Recession. We have a lot of government employees, we have a lot of government contractors, we have a workforce that is to some degree, not completely, but to some degree insulated from some of the vicissitudes that the rest of the economy faced. And so the question of the economy wasn't quite as compelling. We could say, oh, we have all this great unemployment, it's great, but we were talking to communities that maybe hadn't suffered as high unemployment. So they were more concerned about things, other issues. So it wasn't enough really for us to have been running as much as we would like to, because I think it's a tremendous accomplishment that the party deserves credit for. We just weren't getting the credit I think we deserve. So for 2019, what do we do? Well, I'd do some polling. We would recommend doing some polling on particular issues. For example, the tolls in Northern Virginia, $40 on I-66, the tolls going up on the Dulles toll, those sorts of things. There's a little bit of chatter about tolling the Fairfax County Parkway. These are issues that I think people get, and the thing about the tolls is we're not seeing necessarily results, right? Traffic is still terrible. It's hard to get home. I'm paying $40. Where's the beef, right? What's going on? So that's an issue. But I would hold that to see how well of an issue, how strong of an issue people feel about it. The state tax windfall. If we don't revise our state tax laws to conform with the federal tax reform, the state is going to get $500 million windfall. And a windfall, of course, in the law means an undeserved gain. So, that prospect, you're paying all these taxes, the tax cut that you just got is about to go out the window because the state is going to take it away from you. Again, that's something voters may not know about that one. That maybe requires some more education. Again, it's something to talk about, at least to hold on. The third would be the continued development of horse and traffic. Development is continuing, buildings are still going up. Tyson's named itself, its nickname for Tyson's is America's Next Great City. Let's think about that, city. That's a big deal. A city plopping down in the middle of Fairfax where we already have a ton of traffic. So again, there are issues where if we poll them and we find that they have to be specific, like the meals tax or the Columbia Pike Street, but you can ride these issues to victory. That was sort of one of the takeaways. The next thing we would recommend would be to build a bench of candidates. We think that the best candidates, particularly in a suburban area where there are a lot of Democrats or candidates that have spent a lot of time in the community, whether they've coached Little League, been on PTA, or they've been on a board or a commission, or things like that. The candidates, Sang Yi was like that, John Weisstat was like that, Josh Hill was like that. All of them spent time on boards or commissions, or John was on the Arlington Committee of 100. These were folks that were well known in the community before they ran for office. So when the Democrats come at them with, when they try to pejoratively characterize them as racist, homophobes, or xenophobes, or whatever, people can look at them and say, oh, I know these people, I know this person, I know this man, I know this woman. They're not that, okay? Yeah, absolutely.
I just wanted to add a little something here too, and the same thing about developing this bench of candidates, we can't let people get discouraged. And we still want to, we look at ourselves as sort of like a connecting of mentors for people who want to run, people who have run, people who have successfully run. And we have to make sure candidates understand it's not going to be an instantaneous thing. We have a 5 to 10 year plan of, developing this kind of situation.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I mean, our view of building the bench is, we want people to be able to come to the party, and if they're interested in running, we can connect them up. This is our recommendation to the party, is that you have a mechanism for connecting them to help them, the local party can connect them to the PTA or the Rotary. The local party can help them connect with potential donors. The local party can help them build their credibility within the community. And the local party can also help them learn the ropes. So, for example, one of the things, the sub-recommendation would be to connect a potential candidate, somebody who's thinking about running for office with a mentor, or somebody who's either an elected official or a former elected Republican official that can teach them the ropes of campaigning, how to write an op-ed, how to talk to a reporter, all these little things, how to build a campaign, how to raise money, the law, all those sorts of things. These are the sorts of things that we need. It takes time, but our goal, our recommendation would be in 5 to 10 years to just have this big bench of people that we can just unleash in ways for delegate races, for supervisor races, for state senate races, for school board races, just a wide plethora of people that are ready, raring to go, who are already known by their communities and have been active and maybe even have worked on an issue and been able to have some accomplishments and say, hey, I did that, vote for me. So we think that's very important. Okay, yeah, we wanted to leave a lot of time for people.
DJ's going to talk too.
We wanted DJ to discuss, outreach, and then we also wanted to really open the floor for discussion, and we wanted to leave a lot of this program for discussion. I guess the next recommendation that we found was that, the tone of our party does matter. One of the questions we asked in our poll was, does the tone of national politics affect your vote in state and local elections? And 2/3 of people said it would affect it to some degree, and about 1/3 said a lot. So we do need to be cognizant of that fact, as we run our races. We don't have perfect control over the national tone, but again, we do need to be aware of that fact. Another thing that we sort of recommend is to make politics fun, make it rewarding. Life is too short and none of us are getting paid enough to not have fun doing what we're doing. The tax tool campaign was really, really a lot of fun. We like this little guerrilla group where we had this little thing, we just did this on our own, we made videos, we put out signs, and people wondered who did those signs, who was those masked people, who put out those signs. It was fun. And while a lot of the work we do, do the sample ballot, we do, being at the back of school, all of that is very important. I wouldn't, I don't discredit any of that at all. But we ought to have fun too. We ought to find things that are doing that are fun. The internet videos. Another thing that's fun, Loudon Inspires, a group out in Loudoun County. One of the things they did was sponsor a postcard and wine tasting. So they're tasting wine, they're among their friends, they're having fun, and they're writing postcards to people to tell them about a candidate. Handwritten postcard, very, very effective. It's fun, it's effective. I'd say probably a postcard, that comes in the mail 3 weeks before election day probably has more weight than, a sample ballot that's handed to somebody 3 minutes before they vote. So I would, you do.
I'm going to say on that,
Yeah.
I was able to get them the list of every new registered voter in January 1st.
Awesome. And
so they did that right at the beginning of October. So that's an important thing to do.
Yeah, well, that's great. That's great.
Democrats are doing it too, by the way.
We do a newsletter, and I wanted to mention that. We do a weekly newsletter. We often do a weekend update at GOP, and we send that out to a very large list, and we try to list everything. We try to be comprehensive. There's so much going on in Northern Virginia, but we try to reach everybody. If anybody wants to get on that email list, you can sign up. That's your email.
There's
Yeah, there's a thing going around, right? But we think it's really important to communicate what we're doing. We put clips, some of the things that we produce, photos of events we've had, and we ask people to send us information. If candidates want to give us information, we will post it. We have Ron does a fabulous job with our ongoing calendar, and we think it's communication. So one of our suggestions here that Mike has on our recommendations, for other groups to do the same, the state party, local units, to do the same thing. And if we could coordinate with the state party to have sort of a communication that goes out to everybody so people know what's going on in their areas and then in the general, in the state. So,
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to start.
Oh, yeah, no, I think that's great. I mean, other things that we can do, for example, is recognize volunteers. We have great volunteers doing great things, we would love, people love to be recognized, and people deserve to be recognized, and that, just inspires them more to build camaraderie, and hey, they appreciate my efforts, I'm gonna do more for the party, so putting that in writing, sending that out to the state, people love that, they appreciate it, they deserve it. So, that's another thing that we would strongly recommend. It's also a good way to get people to know other Republicans from around the state, other issues around the state, etc. Oh, yeah, sorry. We just have a couple more, and got to move on. Another issue is a simple one. Make it easy for suburban Republicans to participate. Find potentially alternative ways for them to attend meetings. It's not as easy for me. It's not always easy for a lot of people to come to weeknight meetings. 1 or 2 hours on a weeknight, whether it's traffic or work or etc. So, for example, having alternative meetings, smaller gatherings, the types that Jill talked about on weekends, etc. The postcard parties, things like that. These kinds of alternative venues where Republicans can meet and develop camaraderie, particularly for suburbanites who are running around and just a lot of two-parent working households. It's just very hard. So it's an alternative to think about. Another thing we thought about, and this came from our work on the social media, was we were able to reach a lot of people. We were able to get a lot of people to talk to us and respond to us. And so, we think that another thing we should be experimenting with is new ways of precinct organization. One thing we looked at, where there's a variety of studies out there that show that people don't engage with their neighbors the way they used to. And this may be for a lot of reasons, other home entertainment options, online communities are stronger, people don't necessarily go to the same houses, of course, you're betting more together. So the community, the bonds of neighborhoods and studies have shown this, are fraying to some degree, and it's just a development, not a bad or good. But that means that we need to reach people in other ways. And so we've talked about some virtual precincts, where you can talk to people online. There are also people who are in deep blue areas where there aren't a lot of Republicans, and they want to be part of a Republican community too. So these kinds of online communities, I think, would be, it's another thought. We also think that, these kinds of grassroots groups are, grassroots groups like SUVGOP, like Loudon Inspire, like the Tea Party. I'm sorry. Oops. Thanks. Encourage these developments of these kinds of grassroots groups because it's a lot of fun for them. It gives them opportunity to build leadership skills. It's not evidence of disunity. It is not that. Everybody, if you think of an election as a big, giant boulder, SUVGOP is over here pushing this side, and the party's over here pushing this side, and Loudon's pushing, Inspire's pushing this side. Everybody's pushing in the same direction. The goal is to get Republicans elected. But it's also an opportunity for people to show their creative chops, to do things that are fun, to develop leadership skills. We are working to develop people who can, be leaders someday. That's important. So that's another thing. We think these kinds of groups demonstrate the breadth and the strength of the Republican Party. They're not evidence really of disunity. They should be encouraged. It's just a lot of fun.